The baby in my womb gave a gentle kick, as if sensing I was staring at the enormous electronic screen. I was in the VIP waiting room on the third floor of an elite maternity clinic on the Upper East Side of New York City, clutching the order for my routine 5-month ultrasound. The air conditioning was blasting, and shivering slightly, I instinctively cradled my visibly swollen belly. My appointment was at 3 p.m. Just yesterday, Damian Montgomery's executive assistant had sworn up and down that Damian would clear his schedule completely to be here. Naturally, in the last 5 months, that promise hadn't been kept a single time. Mrs. Montgomery, there are 2 patients ahead of you. Feel free to take a seat and relax. The receptionist smiled warmly. I nodded. I had barely sunk into a plush leather armchair by the floor-to-ceiling window when a wave of excitement rippled through the waiting room. Look, it's the CEO of Montgomery Group. Oh my God. It's Damian Montgomery. It's his wedding. The bride is Serena Rivers, the one who just won an Oscar. The voices flooded over me like a tidal wave. I lifted my head. The enormous, flat-screen TV that occupied the opposite wall usually broadcast educational videos about pregnancy or clinic ads. But right now, it was broadcasting live from an entertainment news channel. The camera, slightly shaky, focused on a dazzlingly white chapel on a private estate in the Hamptons. The summer sun was so bright, the screen seemed to glow from within. A red carpet stretched from the driveway to the chapel doors. Event. Staff in matching uniforms flanked both sides. A drone shot flew over the perfectly manicured grounds. No fewer than 30 luxury SUVs were parked at the entrance. Reporters with telephoto lenses were clearly visible from various vantage points. And then there he was, Damian Montgomery, wearing a custom-tailored black tuxedo. His posture was as straight and sharp as a drawn sword. He stood beneath an archway at the chapel entrance, in profile to the camera. His jaw was tight. The light ocean breeze ruffled his dark hair slightly, but he didn't bother to fix it. He just lifted his wrist to check his watch. That gesture was painfully familiar to me. Repressed impatience. Damian looks incredibly handsome today, sighed a young pregnant woman nearby, glued to her phone. I heard this wedding cost millions of dollars, her friend whispered. Serena's dress is from an exclusive designer. The veil alone is 20 feet long. And forget the dress. Look at the flowers. They brought in tens of thousands of hydrangeas on a private jet this morning. My nails dug into my palms. The camera moved inside the chapel. The organ music, slightly distorted by the waiting room speakers, sounded a bit tinny, but it was, unmistakably, the wedding march. Every pew was packed. I recognized several faces that frequently appeared on the covers of Forbes and Fortune. Eleanor Montgomery, his mother, was sitting in the front row in a severe, charcoal-colored suit by Oscar de la Renta. Her hair was coiffed to perfection, without a single strand out of place. She was smiling. I had seen that smile in their Greenwich estate countless times. Regal, proper, but completely devoid of warmth. Then arrived the bride, Serena Rivers, on her father's arm, walking slowly down the aisle. The dress was truly stunning. Cascades of French lace and diamond, dust sparkled blindingly under the indoor lights. The veil hid most of her face, but you could see the corners of her nude-painted lips curved into a meticulously calculated smile. She arrived beside Damian. The priest began the vows. The news ticker at the bottom of the screen cut through me like a knife. Live wedding of Montgomery Group CEO, Damian Montgomery, and movie star Serena Rivers. The wedding of the century. In the Palace. Hamptons. Rumor. Serena is 2 months pregnant. Double joy. My stomach suddenly contracted in a sharp cramp. It wasn't the baby kicking. They were mild contractions, but enough to make me double over and grip the edge of the coffee table beside me. "Sophia, are you okay?" A nurse rushed over. I shook my head, struggling to catch my breath. "I'm fine. Just a little dizzy," but my eyes remained glued to the screen. The priest's voice resonated over the speakers. "Damien, do you take Serena to be your lawfully wedded wife? For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part." The entire waiting room went silent. Everyone held their breath, awaiting the answer. The camera did a close-up of Damien's face. A muscle in his cheek twitched slightly. Then he spoke. His deep, resonant voice was heard clearly through the microphone. "I do. Serena, do you take?" "I do." Serena's voice was sweet, like honey. She didn't even wait for the priest to finish. Applause erupted from the screen. Confetti and white rose petals rained down. Damien lifted Serena's veil, leaned in, and kissed her. The camera zoomed in, closer. You could clearly see her closed eyes, her long lashes casting shadows on her cheeks. He kissed her for a long time, so long that someone in the plashed waiting room started clapping, so long that the medical order in my hand dampened with sweat. Its edges crumpled. The nurse touched my shoulder gently. "Sophia, it's your turn. Dr. Evans is waiting for you. In exam room 2. I turned towards her. Everything was becoming blurry before my eyes. "Okay." I heard my own surprisingly firm voice say, "I'm coming." As I stood up, my knees buckled. I leaned heavily on the back of the chair. I took a deep breath and walked slowly, step by step, toward the exam room. Behind me, the ecstatic cheers from the screen mixed with the hyped-up voice of the anchor. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's toast the newlyweds." The door closed behind me, and the world became twice as quiet. Dr. Evans was a top-tier specialist hired by the Montgomery family. She was in her 50s and wore gold-rimmed glasses. She smiled and patted the examination table. "Sophia, dear." "Ah, Damien couldn't make it today?" I handed her the order silently. She took it, scanned it, and said, "In the last ultrasound, you had a low-lying placenta. Let's take a closer look today to see if it has moved up. Don't worry, it's very common early on." The cold gel spread across my belly. The ultrasound transducer pressed against my skin and glided over it. The monitor lit up. The black and white image flickered a few times before stabilizing. 2 small, curled shapes floated in the amniotic fluid. You could see the fluttering of their little hearts, their tiny arms and legs. "The twins are developing beautifully." Dr. Evans' voice was professionally reassuring. "Look, here is the boy, and here is the girl. Oh, the little one is kicking his sister." I stared at the screen. 2 little humans. My babies. Damien's babies. Legally, he was still my husband. Our marriage certificate was locked in a safety deposit box. Although I hadn't seen that paper in almost a year, Eleanor had brought up the divorce 6 months ago. I had signed the papers, but Damien never signed his. He said he was busy, that there was no rush. that it would be cleaner to finalize it after the babies were born. Cleaner. What an ironic word. The heartbeats are strong for both, said Dr. Evans, handing me some paper towels. Wipe yourself off, get plenty of rest, and don't overexert yourself. You look a little pale. Did you skip lunch? I sat up slowly, wiping the gel from my stomach. Dr. Evans, I began, my voice hoarse. If a pregnant woman suffers severe emotional stress, does it affect the babies? She adjusted her glasses. It depends on the stress. Usually, with a short, intense emotional spike, the mother's body regulates itself. But if it is prolonged, she paused, staring at me. Sophia, is something wrong? I shook my head, sliding off the table. Nothing, just asking. When I walked out, the giant screen in the waiting room had returned to a documentary about gestational diabetes. The women who had been watching the wedding had dispersed. Someone was checking their phone. Others chatted quietly. Fragments of conversation reached me. Damien Montgomery and Serena Rivers. What a beautiful couple. I walked past them and took the elevator down to the bustling lobby. People lined up at the pharmacy, wandered around the information desk. I pushed my way through the crowd and exited through the revolving glass doors. The 3:30 p.m. sun hit me full in the face. My phone vibrated in my designer purse. I took it out. A name shone on the screen. Damien. My thumb hovered over the plies. Answer button for 3 seconds. Then I swiped left, sending it to voicemail. The vibration stopped. A few seconds later, it vibrated again. A text message. Family dinner at the estate in Connecticut tonight at 7. Mother says it is absolutely necessary that you be there. Arthur will pick you up at 5. I stared at those words and suddenly burst out laughing. I laughed until my eyes burned. I looked up at a massive LED billboard across the avenue. They were broadcasting the wedding. The camera focused on the newlyweds cutting the cake. Damien's hand covered Serena's as they held the knife together. Serena was smiling so much her eyes were crescents. She was practically pressing her entire body against him. Damien's face was expressionless, but he didn't pull away. He even whispered something in her ear that made her laugh even harder. My phone vibrated again. This time it was Eleanor Montgomery. Have you seen the news? Damien and Serena officially got engaged today. The formal wedding will be after the baby is born. Come to dinner tonight. We need to clarify some things. Do not cause a scene, or it will be worse for you. I locked the screen and dropped the phone into my bag. Then I raised my hand to hail a taxi. Where to, miss? Asked the driver. Tribeca. I gave him my best friend Valerie's address. The taxi merged into traffic. I leaned against the window, watching the city blur past. As we passed Times Square, another giant screen was broadcasting the wedding. A crowd had gathered below, looking up. A girl was even recording it with her phone. How romantic, muttered the driver indifferently, looking at the screen. The rich and their circuses. I heard that actresses' jewelry alone costs more than a penthouse in Manhattan. I didn't respond. He kept talking to himself. With these billionaire marriages, everything is for show. Who knows what really happens behind closed doors? My phone vibrated again. An unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. A fast-talking male voice was heard. I'm a reporter from Page 6. We received a tip that you are actually Damien Montgomery's legal wife. His wedding, too, Serena Rivers today could constitute bigamy. Would you like to make any comment? I gripped the phone tightly. Sophia, are you there? You have the wrong number, I said calmly. But we have proof that you and Damien registered your marriage 3 years ago, and that you are currently pregnant. I said you have the wrong number. I hung up and turned off the phone immediately. The taxi stopped in front of Valerie's Placert luxury building. I paid, got out, and went straight up. I rang the doorbell. A minute later, the door flung open. Valerie was there in a silk robe with messy hair, clearly just woken up. Seeing me, she was stunned. Sophia, what are you doing here? Didn't you have your ultrasound today? I walked in and slammed the door behind me. Sliding down the 3, heavy wood, I collapsed onto the floor. Val, I looked up at her. Help me. What happened? Valerie knelt instantly, grabbing my hands. Why are your hands like ice? You're pale as a ghost. Did the Montgomerys do something again? I shook my head, then nodded. Finally, I spoke. Damien married Serena Rivers. Today in the Hamptons. Live broadcast nationwide. I was at the clinic. They showed it on the giant screen in the waiting room. Valerie's expression went from confusion to shock, and then her face turned crimson with rage. Has he lost his mind? You haven't even divorced yet. That's bigamy. I'm calling a lawyer. It's useless. I interrupted her. The Montgomerys can turn black into white. Besides, I signed the divorce agreement. He just never signed his part. In their eyes, I haven't been the Montgomery daughter-in-law for a long time. But he can't do this, Sophia. I squeezed her hand so hard it hurt her. Help me. You need to leave tonight. But you're 5 months pregnant. Exactly, that's why. I need you. I looked her directly in the eyes. You still have friends at Delta, right? Get me a ticket out of the country tonight. Anywhere. Just don't put it in my name. Put it in yours. I'll pick it up at the airport. Valerie's lips trembled. Sophia, think about it carefully. It's too risky. You're alone and with twins. Staying here is riskier. I let go of her hand. I used the wall to stand up. Eleanor ordered me to be at a family dinner tonight. Do you know what that means? She wants to force me in front of the whole family to recognize Serena as the future lady of the house. She wants to force me to give up my rights to my children, accept a payoff, and disappear like a beggar. I walked to the living room window and opened the curtains. The 4 p.m. sun flooded the room, hurting my eyes. I have made my decision, I said with my back to her. I will have these babies, but they will not carry the Montgomery surname. They will be mine alone. A long silence stretched behind me. Finally, I heard Valeria Sop. Okay, she said with a choked voice. I'll help you. She ran to her room and returned with her laptop, her fingers flying over the keyboard. There's a direct flight to London at 9:45 p.m. 2 seats left in business class. I'm booking it in my name. You'll go to the VIP counter at JFK and use my ID to get the boarding pass, okay? When you arrive in London, you'll stay with my Aunt Lydia. She's a wonderful woman. She'll take care of you. Once you're settled, we'll figure out the rest. Val, I turned to her. Don't tell anyone about this. Not even your aunt. She froze. Why? The Montgomerys have a long reach. I walked to the blank sofa and sat down, gently rubbing my belly. I don't want to implicate anyone. I'll find my own place in London. Don't worry. I have some money. It's enough to start over. It was money I had, secretly saved over the past 3 years. The allowance that Eleanor deposited into my account every month, I hadn't spent a dime. I channeled it all into an ECETAT offshore account. It wasn't billions, around $5 million, but it was enough to start from scratch. Valerie's eyes were red again. Sophia, why do you have to suffer? Like, is this? Because I no longer want to be a goldfish in their bowl, I replied, quietly. A horn honked from the street below. I glanced out the window. A black Escalade was parked by the curb. Arthur, the Montgomery family, chauffeur, got out and pulled out his phone to make a call. They're here, I said. Valerie ran to the window. Already? It's barely 4:30. Eleanor never liked waiting. I'll go down. Send the ticket information to my new phone. I'll send you a message from the airport. Sophia. Valerie grabbed my arm. Tears finally spilled over. Please, be very careful. Let me know as soon as you land. I will. I hugged her tightly. As the elevator descended, I looked at myself in the mirrored doors. A pale, exhausted face, dark circles under my eyes, but my eyes burned like steel forged in fire. Lobby. I walked out through the glass doors. Arthur saw me and quickly put his phone away. Mrs. Montgomery, Mrs. Eleanor asked me to take you to Connecticut. Fine. I got into the back seat. The SUV merged into the Manhattan evening. Traffic. Arthur checked the rearview mirror several times, as if he wanted to say something, but hesitated. Finally, he gave in. Mrs. Montgomery, did you see the news today? Yes, I replied, looking out the window. A big wedding. Arthur remained silent. The cabin was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. I closed my eyes, counting the days in my head. 5 months, 150 days. Damien, Eleanor, Serena. I will remember every single debt you owe me, and when I return, I will be the one making the rules. I didn't go to the family dinner. As we approached the on-ramp to the highway, I knocked on the partition. Arthur, pull over here for a second. He looked confused in the mirror. Ma'am, we're not even on the highway yet. I don't feel well. I'm going to throw up. I covered my mouth. My voice muffled. Just a minute. The heavy SUV pulled onto the shoulder. The second I opened the door, I hunched over, feigning, retching. Arthur unbuckled his seatbelt immediately and ran around the car to help me. Mrs. Montgomery, are you okay? Do you need water? This was my chance. I bolted, upright. Before Arthur could react, I ran toward the open entrance of an underground parking garage, just a few yards away. My heels echoed loudly in the Propler concrete cavern. As I ran, I took off my designer coat and pulled a dark gray hoodie out of my large tote bag, pulling it over my head. Mrs. Montgomery, Sophia. Arthur's shouts echoed behind me. I didn't look back. The parking garage had an exit onto the opposite street. Valerie's discreet, white hatchback with out-of-state plates was waiting in the alley. I jumped inside, and Valerie floored the accelerator. Seatbelt. Her voice was tense. The car sped down the street. I looked back and saw Arthur run to the end of the alley, stop in complete confusion, and pull out his phone in frustration. He's calling Eleanor, said Valerie, weaving aggressively through traffic. We need to get to JFK quickly. I pulled my turned-off phone from my bag, rolled down the window, and threw it into the back of a passing garbage truck. Valerie's eyes widened. Anything that can track me must be destroyed, I said, calmly, pulling out a cheap, prepaid phone. Tickets confirmed. Confirmed. Valerie handed me a folder, passport, visa, reservation. I got you an expedited business visa. The photo is yours from 3 months ago, but the name is Lydia Peters, my cousin. Aunt Lydia will meet you at Heathrow Airport. She just knows you're a friend. Coming to rest during her pregnancy, nothing more. I opened the passport. In the photo, my face looked softer. There was still light in my eyes back then. Now there was only a frozen void. Thank you. I pressed the folder against my chest like a life preserver. We drove to JFK in silence. The setting sun painted the NYC skyline with streaks of fiery orange. Traffic on the expressway was bumper to bumper. Tail lights turned into a river of red. I observed the city where I had lived for 25 years. I was born here, went to Wharton. This is where I met Damien. Here he had put that absurdly expensive, icy diamond ring on my finger. Now I was fleeing with 2 little lives inside me that hadn't even seen the world yet. Sophia. Valerie broke the silence with a choked voice. Are you sure you want to do this? Raising twins alone in a foreign country is going to be very difficult. I turned and smiled at her. Staying with the Montgomerys is easier. She remained silent. We arrived at By Capes and Spall, Terminal 4. Valerie stopped in the passenger drop-off zone and hugged me tightly. Send me a message as soon as you land. If you need money, tell me. You've done more than enough. I returned the hug. Val, don't try to contact me for the next few years. If the Montgomerys question you, play dumb. Don't contact me until I contact you first. Grabbing my carry-on, I entered the terminal. Inside were just a few changes of clothes, essential documents, and prenatal vitamins. Everything else that belonged to Sophia Walker and Mrs. Damien Montgomery stayed in that cold, luxurious penthouse, including the 3-carat diamond ring. I had left it right in the middle of my vanity. What face would Damien make when he saw it? I didn't know, and I didn't care. Security, boarding. At 9:45 p.m., the flight took off on time. As the wheels left the tarmac, lifting us into the night sky, I looked out the window at the dwindling lights of New York City, gently placed a hand on my belly. Babies, I whispered. Mommy is taking you to a new world. Rainy season in London, damp and muggy. Valerie's Aunt Lydia turned out to be a warm, middle-aged woman who ran a small holistic medicine and acupuncture clinic in Bacheley Blang, the city, in Notting Hill. She settled me into a small apartment above her shop, 2 bedrooms, old but spotless. Valerie told me you came here to rest because things were stressful at home, said Aunt Lydia, handing me a bowl of nutritious chicken broth. Relax here. Don't have many patients. Upstairs is quiet, perfect for you. Thank you, Aunt Lydia. I took the bowl gratefully. She sat opposite me, looking at my belly. 5 months. Twins. Must be heavy. Look how thin you are. Come down every day. I'll take your pulse and give you some herbal teas to strengthen you. And so I stayed in that little apartment, across the ocean. For the first 2 months, I barely went out. Every day, I helped Lydia sort herbs in the clinic, learning the properties of different Roots and leaves. By day, she treated me. By night, I read her extensive library on Oriental medicine and postpartum care. My belly grew rapidly. By the 7th month, I couldn't see my feet. One night, reading in bed, a sudden, agonizing cramp twisted my abdomen. My water broke. Clenching my teeth, I grabbed my phone and called Lydia. She came up in 5 minutes and immediately called an ambulance. The contractions became violent on the way to the hospital. I gripped Lydia's hand, so tightly my nails drew blood. "Breathe, breathe," she chanted, though panic was evident in her voice. Twins, 7 months premature. I knew the risks. By the time they wheeled me into the delivery room, I was half delirious with pain. The dazzling surgical lights burned my eyes. The nurses' voices sounded distant. "Push, push again." I don't know how much time passed, but the cry of a baby suddenly pierced the air. And 30 seconds later, another. "Congratulations." A boy and a girl. A nurse brought 2 small bundles close to my face. "Premature, but they have strong lungs. They will be fighters." I turned my head and looked at their little red wrinkled faces. Tears flowed uncontrollably. "Leo," I croaked, looking at the boy. And Mia. Those were the names I had dreamed of years ago, lying in the huge bed back at the Montgomery mansion staring at the crystal chandelier. Lydia, with red eyes, nodded. Beautiful names. I spent the first few weeks recovering in the clinic. Lydia cared for me like a daughter. Leo and Mia spent a month in the neonatal intensive care unit. When I finally brought them home, they were tiny but full of life. When the twins turned 3 months old, I made my first big move. "Aunt Lydia, I want to rent the space next to your clinic." I slid my bank card across the table. "These are my savings, around $5 million. I want to open a high-end maternal and postpartum care center." Lydia froze. "Sophia, you're still breastfeeding. Your body hasn't fully recovered. I can't wait." I looked at the twins, sleeping in their bassinet. "I need to build a foundation. Half of this will go to rent and renovations. The other half, I want to officially be your apprentice, combining Eastern postpartum recovery with modern Western maternal care." She looked at me for a long time and finally sighed. "You are a stubborn girl. If I weren't stubborn, I would have died in the Montgomery mansion a long time ago." We got the lease quickly. An old coffee shop of 650 square feet. I drew the designs myself. Warm woods, soft lighting, private lactation suites, and a specialized herbal steam room. Aura Maternal Wellness. The day we hung the sign, the sun was shining. Mia gurgled in her stroller, waving her little fists. Leo just stared at everything, silently. His eyes looked so much like his, but the gaze was completely different. It was my son's gaze. No coldness, no calculation, just pure curiosity. The first 3 months we didn't have a single client. Lydia brought some of her postpartum patients to try my services. I fell back on everything I had learned as a business student at Wharton. I designed wellness packages, launched targeted ads on social media, and built an elegant website. Our first real clients were American and European expatriates. They tried the herbal steam baths and postpartum massages, and word of mouth spread like wildfire. By the time the twins turned 1, Aura had 3 full-time employees. By day, I ran the center. By night, I studied for my international pediatric care licenses while rocking the babies. I was exhausted, but every day had a purpose. Leo spoke first. One morning, sitting in his crib, he looked at me and said clearly, "Mama." I burst into tears on the spot. Mia started talking a month later, but walked first. When she wobbled into my arms for the first time, her brother laughed hysterically from the rug. My phone was full of their photos and videos, but I never dared to send a single one to Valerie. I knew the power of the Montgomerys. Any digital fingerprint was a risk. I wrote all my thoughts in a thick journal, waiting for the day I could stand proudly in the sun. By the third year, Aura opened its second location in Chelsea. I obtained my international certifications. Our hybrid postpartum recovery approach was featured in Harper's Bazaar UK and Vogue. By the fourth year, I expanded into early childhood development, renting a 3-story building in Kensington. Wellness on the first floor, toddler classes on the second, and a spacious apartment for me and the children on the third. Business was booming, but I never stopped gathering information. Valerie flew to London twice a year, bringing news of the Montgomerys. Damien and Serena, never legally married, she whispered during a visit, playing with Mia. After that, ceremony in the Hamptons. Damien refused to file the legal papers. Serena threw massive tantrums, but Eleanor covered it up in the press. I was reading a book to Leo. My fingers paused. Why? Nobody knows. Rumor has it, Damien is looking for someone like crazy. He pulled all the security camera, recordings from the day you disappeared. Every intersection, train station, airport, but your passport was never scanned. He can't understand how you evaporated. Because I was Lydia Peters, Serena still plays the fiancé card. But NYC high society knows she is basically a pariah. Eleanor is also sick of her. Reportedly, she realized a movie actress isn't old guard enough. Valerie smiled disdainfully. She deserves it. When you destroy a home, you pay the price. I closed Leo's book. Mia, go play with your Legos. The twins obediently headed to their playmat. Montgomery Group has been buying maternity and baby brands lately, I said, opening my laptop. Last year, they launched a luxury postpartum franchise, Montgomery Care, direct competition for Aura's future market. I opened an encrypted file. I paid some people to investigate their quality control reports. 3 batches of their flagship baby lotion tested positive for lead levels way above FDA limits. They bribed regulators to hide it. Valerie leaned in. How did you get this? Money buys everything, I said calmly. The Montgomerys have many enemies. Many people want dirt on them. I'm just organizing it. Sophia, what are you planning? I looked at the Montgomery Group logo on my screen. This was the family I once thought I would spend my life serving. I'm going back, I said. Valerie gasped. You're crazy. Damien is still looking for you. If you go back. That's why I need a new identity. I pulled a folder from my pressin. Safe. Aura is highly respected in Europe now. Now I'm going to make a massive entry into the US market as an international blanks brand. I will use the name Sophia Walker, but I won't be Sophia Walker, the pathetic Montgomery wife. I will be Sophia Walker, founder and CEO of Aura. It's too dangerous. And with the children. Val, I interrupted her. I've hidden for 5 years. The twins are 4. They need to know where they come from. I walk to the window, watching my children build a tower. Besides, there are some debts that are long overdue. In the spring of the 5th year, preparations for Aura's U.S. headquarters officially began. I registered the company in St. John in the Public, Delaware, assembled a ruthless executive team, and leased 2 floors in a prime skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. On my last night in London, I sat by the panoramic window looking at the blowed below skyline. I opened an anonymous, encrypted email I had received that morning. Attached was a video file, CCTV recordings from the clinic waiting room on the public, Upper East Side. The date and time were exactly 5 years ago. In the video, a pale, pregnant version of myself clutched her stomach staring at a giant screen broadcasting Damien and Serena's kiss. The text of the email read, "I have what you asked for. Transfer the rest to the Cayman account." I closed the video and opened a master folder. Inside was everything I had, accumulated over 5 years. Internal memos proving the cover-up of lead in Montgomery Baby. Evidence that Eleanor Montgomery embezzled corporate funds to bankrupt competitors. Blackmail. Photos of Serena Rivers with a married studio executive. Traces of tax evasion by 3 Montgomery board members. And a blank template for a court-ordered DNA test. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. Me, Leo, and Mia on the beach in Brighton. The sun setting, the twins kissing both my cheeks. "Babies," I whispered, "tomorrow we're going home." The city lights twinkled like a silent celebration, but I knew the real battlefield awaited me 3,500 miles away in the city I had fled. "Damien Montgomery, I'm back. Are you ready for me?" The plane landed at JFK at 3 p.m. Leo pressed his face against the window. "Mommy, this is where you were born." "Yes." I unbuckled his seatbelt, "and it's where you and your sister should have been born too." Mia, sitting in the seat next to me, was intensely focused on a Rubik's Cube. Hearing us, she looked up blinking with her bright eyes. Exact replicas of mine. "Daddy is here." The cabin went silent for a second. My assistant, Elena, instinctively looked at me from the row behind. I calmly adjusted Mia's collar. "Daddy is far away. We're going to see Aunt Valerie first." "Okay." Mia nodded and returned to her cube. The answer satisfied her. For the last 4 years, Daddy was just a fairy tale character. I never intentionally erased his existence, but I didn't mention him either. The plane taxied to a stop. I took their hands and walked down the jet bridge. 5 years of exile vanished. The second my heels touched the concrete of New York City, the smell of the air, the skyline in the distance, I was back. Valerie was waiting at the VIP arrivals curb. She practically ran toward us, crushing me in a hug. 5 years. "Do you know how much I missed you?" Her voice cracked. I rubbed her back. "I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough." She pulled away, wiping her eyes, and crouched down. "Leo, Mia, look how big you are. Come give Auntie a hug." "Okay." Leo was shy and hid behind my leg, but Mia opened her arms confidently. "Hi, Aunt Valerie. Mommy showed us your photos all the time. Smart girl." Valerie lifted Mia and ruffled Leo's hair. "Let's go. Auntie is taking you to eat the best pizza in the world." In the back of the SUV, on the way to the city, Valerie finally composed herself and got to the point. "Tomorrow night is the Global Wellness Summit Gala. I got you an invitation. It's hosted by the mayor's office and top health venture capitalists. Everyone who is any Damian Montgomery RSVP'd. She pulled out an iPad and opened a file. Here's his history for the last 3 years. Montgomery Group invested a ton of capital in maternity and childcare, but growth stalled last year. This year they are pushing hard with elite maternity centers, Montgomery Care. It is a direct threat to Aura. I looked at Damien's photo on the screen. The same deep eyes, the same cold gaze, only a few faint lines around his eyes now, and a look that felt even /brave for weight, heavier. He had aged into a sharper, more ruthless version of himself. Serena became the face of Montgomery Baby 6 months ago. Valerie continued. The PR campaign was nauseating. The future Mrs. Montgomery personally guarantees quality, but they are rarely seen together in public. It is said that Eleanor forced her to sign an ironclad prenup. Serena threw a tantrum, but they silenced her fast. I nodded. My eyes drifted to the next name on the iPad. Andrew Davis. Mercer. Health is also attending, noted Valerie. Andrew took over the family private equity firm 3 years ago. He's been investing billions in private healthcare. Last week, his people contacted Aura about a possible merger. Valerie lowered her voice. Sophia, you remember Andrew, right? How could I forget him? At Wharton, he courted me for 2 years. When I rejected him, he moved to London for his master's, returning to New York as a billionaire heir. What a small world, I said. Does he know I'm the founder of Aura? I don't think so. The press only knows that Sophia Walker is based in London. He probably thinks it's a coincidence, but tomorrow night you'll use your real name. Okay. I locked the iPad. Whoever I have to meet, I'll meet. The car stopped in front of an ultra-luxury skyscraper in Tribeca. I had bought this penthouse through a shell company months ago. Top floor, 270. Degree views of the Seine, Hudson, and the skyline. Maximum security. Valerie came up with us. Scanning the huge living room and the beat-bleasin', custom-made playroom, she exhaled in relief. Not bad. The building management is run by a friend's firm. You're safe here. Thanks. Don't mention it. She checked her Apple Watch. I have to run to a client meeting. I'll pick you up at 5 p.m. tomorrow with the Glam Squad. After Valerie left, I gave the twins a tour. Mia ran from room to room in awe. Leo stood silently by the tall windows, watching the congested traffic far below. Mommy, he said, suddenly, we are here to go to war. My heart skipped a beat. I knelt to his level. Why do you ask that, sweetie? Because when Aunt Valerie was talking, she looked very serious. And when you look at your computer, your forehead does this. His little finger touched my brow. Right here, I took his hand. Leo, Mommy has some serious business to attend to here, but you and your sister just need to be children. Have fun, grow up. Mommy will handle the rest. He looked at me for a long time and then nodded, firmly. Okay, I will protect Mia. In his serious gaze, I saw the shadow of the Pleiss man I used to know. I hugged him tightly. And Mommy will protect both of you. The next day at 5 p.m., Valerie arrived with a team of stylists. 2 hours later, I was standing in front of the mirror, an emerald green velvet gown. Simple cut, but it cinched my waist perfectly. My hair was up in an elegant low bun, modest pearl earrings. The makeup was light, but the eyeliner was sharp, accentuating my eyes. This was the biggest change. 5 years ago, the meek and submissive Sophia Walker died in front of a Willa Greedon 24 died in front of a Gretin television screen in a waiting room. The woman standing here was the CEO of Aura. Perfect. Valerie circled me. When Damien sees you, his jaw will drop to the floor. Mia ran out of her room and hugged my leg. Mommy, you look like a princess. Leo followed her in a tiny, tailored suit. Valerie's trusted nanny would take them to an elite kids club for the evening. I would pick them up after the gala. Behave yourselves with Maria, okay? I kissed their foreheads. Mommy will be back soon. The gala was held in a speedball ballroom at the top of a skyscraper in Hudson Yards. As the glass elevator ascended, the glittering expanse of New York City unfolded like a sea of diamonds. Valerie took my arm. Don't be nervous. Tonight is just about making an entrance. Let the room know that Aura has arrived. I'm not nervous, I replied. The elevator doors opened. With a ding, the hall was packed. Crystal chandeliers refracted the light. The sound of a grand piano mixed with the popping of champagne corks. Waiters in white dinner jackets glided through the crowd. We hadn't taken 3 steps when a bald executive approached. Valerie. Long time no see, Mr. Bradley. Valerie smiled, stepping aside. Allow me to introduce Miss Sophia Walker, founder of the maternal wellness brand Aura. Sophia Richard Bradley of Hote, Bradley Capital. Miss Walker, so young and already so successful. He shook my hand. His eyes paused on my face. Do we know each other from before? I just have one of those faces. I smiled softly, withdrawing my hand. Valerie, leveraging her PR empire, introduced me to a dozen influential figures in an hour. My clutch was soon full of business cards. Sophia, a smooth, familiar voice, sounded behind me. I turned around. 2 steps away stood Andrew Davis holding a Presqu'île glass of champagne, smiling warmly. He had matured. The eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses were still kind, but they held a new, predatory business sharpness. Mr. Davis. I offered my hand. I've heard a lot about you. He took it, holding it a second longer than necessary. It really is you. I heard the Frank BH, founder of Aura, was a Sophia Walker from London, but I thought it was just a coincidence. What a small world. I withdrew my hand. He studied me openly. You've changed. 5 years is enough to change anyone. You know each other. Intervened. Valerie. Contact. We went to Wharton together. Andrew smiled. Sophia was the queen of the business school. The line of guys trying to date her went around. The whole campus. You exaggerate. I took a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray. I didn't drink alcohol. Tonight required absolute clarity. As we spoke, a wave of tension shifted the atmosphere near the entrance. I didn't need to turn around to know who had arrived. Only one person commanded a room that way. Valerie instinctively squeezed my arm. I patted her hand gently, maintaining my relaxed posture with Andrew. I've been reading about the private clinics Mercer Health is acquiring. Aura has Sengsa proprietary postpartum technology that could be highly synergistic. Perhaps we could discuss a joint venture. Absolutely. Andrew's eyes moved from me to the Greets Ender, entrance. Damien Montgomery just walked in. Let's go say hello. No rush. I took a sip of my water. It's a long night. Despite my casual words, I felt a gaze burning, my back like a laser. Footsteps. The sound of expensive leather shoes on marble. Approached. The murmur around us died down. The crowd parted naturally. I turned around. Damien Montgomery was 3 feet away. He wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit without a tie, the top button of his dress shirt undone. 5 years had left their mark. But it wasn't age. It was a glacial, hardened severity. His jaw was sharper. He looked like a weapon that had finally drawn blood. He was plain looking at me. His eyes traveled over my face, my figure, and back to my eyes. Shock, confusion, disbelief, and then dark, terrifying, unfathomable intensity took over his features. "Sophia," he exhaled, his voice an octave lower than I. "Remembered, Mr. Montgomery?" I smiled politely and raised my glass. "It's been a long time." The air froze. Everyone held their breath. In this circle, who didn't know the scandalous story of the Montgomery wife who vanished into thin air 5 years ago? Who didn't? You know, Damien had turned the world upside down looking for her. And here she was, radiant, imposing, chatting as if she had just returned from a vacation in the Tozen 60A. Hamptons. Damien took a step forward. The scent of cedarwood hit me. His signature, cologne. He hadn't changed it in 5 years. "Where have you been?" he asked. His voice so low, it sounded like he was grinding his teeth. "In London," I replied airily. "Started a company. Things are going well. And you, Mr. Montgomery? I see Montgomery Group is thriving. Congratulations." He stared, searching my hembo, face for any crack, any hint of the scared girl he used to know. He found nothing. "You." His Adam's apple moved. "When you came back this afternoon, I kept smiling just in time for the gala. Oh, Mr. Montgomery, allow me to introduce Andrew Davis, CEO of Mercer Health. Andrew is an old friend from college. Andrew, Damien Montgomery. I assume you know each other." Andrew extended his hand. "Damien, good to see you." Damien barely looked at him and didn't take his hand. His gaze was fixed on me. I need to talk. Now is not a good time." I gestured toward the room. "I am here representing Aura. We must observe professional etiquette. Perhaps another time my assistant can contact your secretary." "Sophia." He leaned closer. "Invading my personal space? Don't do this to me." My smile faded. "Mr. Montgomery." I looked him directly in the eyes. "We are at a public industry event. Please maintain your professionalism. As far as I recall, we have no pending personal business to discuss. No personal, quote, business." He let out a dark, humorless laugh. "You are my legal wife. You disappear for 5 years. Show up out of nowhere. And say we have no personal business." Gasps echoed through the immediate crowd. Valerie went pale and opened her mouth to intervene, but I silenced her with a look. I set my water glass on a cocktail table. The crystal clinked sharply. "Legal wife," I repeated, my voice calm, but piercingly clear. "Mr. Montgomery, you seem to have forgotten that I signed our divorce papers 5 years ago. The fact that you refused to sign them doesn't change the fact that we have been separated for 5 years. Our marriage is legally and functionally dead. I have already instructed my legal team to file for a contested divorce in Newark, York Supreme Court. The papers will be delivered to Montgomery Group's legal department on Monday. Damien's face darkened like a storm cloud. You want a divorce? Isn't that what you and Eleanor always wanted? I smiled thinly. I'm just granting your wish. Without giving him a chance to respond, I turned to Andrew. Andrew? About that proposal we were discussing, I have a detailed presentation ready. I'll send it to your office tomorrow. Andrew looked at me with deep respect. I look forward to it. I nodded, took Valerie's arm and said, Val, let's go. Say hello to the Deputy Mayor for Economic Development. I heard his wife just had their second child. She might be interested in our postnatal retreats. We walked away. Even from across the room, I could feel Damien's eyes boring into my back. Valerie's hands were shaking. Sophia, are you okay? I'm fine, I said, quietly. This is just the appetizer. For the rest of the night, Damien didn't take his eyes off me, but I never looked back at him. I worked the room flawlessly, handed out cards, and even gave an impromptu 5-minute speech on stage about Aura's vision. The applause was deafening. As I stepped off the stage, I saw Damien in the Plaken corner clutching a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking. His eyes held rage, confusion, and something else I had never seen in him. Panic. The gala ended. At 10 p.m., Valerie went to get the car from valet. I waited under the building's awning. The city night air was crisp. I adjusted my shawl. Footsteps approached from behind. Sophia. I didn't turn around. Damien stopped beside me. The scent of whiskey and cedarwood enveloped me. The baby? He asked. My heart clenched, but my face remained a stone mask. Why do you ask, Mr. Montgomery? When you left, 5 years ago, you were 5 months pregnant. His voice was raspy. Did you have the baby? Finally, I turned to face him. I did. A flash of something desperate lit up in his eyes. But I cut him off. They have absolutely nothing to do with you. They are mine. Mine alone. Sophia. He grabbed my wrist. His grip was crushing. Those are my children. I have a right to know. A right. I let out a harsh laugh, violently yanking my arm from his grip. What rights do you have, Damien? 5 years ago, when I was 5 months, pregnant, walking into an ultrasound appointment alone, you were broadcasting your wedding to another woman, to the whole world. Did you think about your rights while you made me the laughingstock of the city? He froze. You had the right to ignore my calls when I needed you most. You had the right to let your mother humiliate me daily and try to force me to give up my unborn children. I stepped into his space, my voice a deadly whisper. And now you demand rights? You shredded those rights with your own hands 5 years ago. His face lost color under the streetlights. His lips parted, but no sound came. Out. Headlights cut through the darkness. Valerie's SUV pulled up. I gave him one last look. Don't forget to sign the divorce papers. Dragging it out will only humiliate you more. I opened the door and got in. As we drove away, I watched him in the rearview mirror. He was still standing on the tan knee, the curb, frozen like a statue. What did he tell you? Valerie asked carefully. He asked about the children. I leaned back and closed my eyes. He guessed. It was inevitable. I opened my eyes watching the neon lights of Midtown blur. Everything is going according to plan. Outside, the city that never sleeps buzzed with life. But I knew that after tonight, the Montgomery's world would never be the same. Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. I was with Leo and Mia outside the wrought iron gates of the Kensington School on the Upper East Side. It was the most exclusive private preschool in New York City. Bilingual immersion, military-grade security, and a notoriously brutal admissions process. I had secured 2 spots leveraging my expatriate status and Aura's massive corporate backing. "Mommy, it looks like a castle." Mia tilted, her head back, looking at the neo-Gothic architecture. Leo observed his surroundings silently, his small hand clutching mine. The admissions director, a polished woman named Mrs. Peterson, greeted us personally. We maintain an incredibly low student-teacher ratio, a maximum of 10 children per classroom. Our curriculum includes STEM, arts, and high-level POS, emotional intelligence development, she explained as we walked through the halls. "Rest assured, Miss Walker, our families are highly vetted. The environment here is impeccably curated." Curated. I looked out the window at the line of Maybachs and Range Rovers waiting at the curb, but said nothing. The paperwork went smoothly. The twins were placed in the same classroom. Their teacher, Miss Davis, was young and energetic. The children adapted instantly. Within 10 minutes, Mia was showing another girl her coloring book. Leo sat in the reading corner, silently flipping through a picture book. "They are remarkable," noted Mrs. Peterson, "especially your son. His concentration is incredibly advanced for a 4-year-old. "Thank you." I checked my watch. "I'll be back at 4. If anything happens, call my cell immediately." Just an hour. After arriving at my office in Midtown, my phone rang. The caller ID said, "Kensington School." "Miss Walker, this is Miss Davis." The teacher's voice was frantic. "Leo had an altercation with another child. The other child's mother is already here. Could you please come? I'm on my way." When I arrived at the preschool, before even opening the principal's door, I heard a shrill, furious voice. "What kind of wild child is this?" Raising his hand at 4 years old? "Where is his mother?" I opened the door. Leo was standing next to Miss Davis, jaw clenched, polo slightly undone, but his posture rigid. Across from him, a chubby boy was sobbing, clinging to the skirt of a very well-groomed woman. The boy had a slight red scratch on his cheek, and I knew the woman. Serena Rivers, even behind enormous Tom Ford sunglasses. That arrogant stance and iconic Chanel tweed jacket were unmistakable. Hearing the door open, she spun around sharply. She lowered her sunglasses. "You." I ignored her completely and went straight to Leo. Kneeling, I asked, "Leo, what happened?" Seeing me, Leo's tense shoulders relaxed slightly. "Mommy, he tried to steal Mia's toy and pushed her. I told him to apologize. He said no and said a bad word to me, so I pushed him." "Pushed him?" shrieked Serena. "My son's face is red." "You call that a push?" "He hit him." "Miss Davis, how do you allow violent, low-class children into this academy?" Miss Davis tried to mediate. "Miss Rivers, it was just a squabble over a toy." "A squabble," scoffed Serena. "Never in my life have I laid a finger on my son, and some fatherless brat assaults him, and you call it a squabble." The word fatherless sucked the air out of the room. I stood up slowly. "Miss Rivers," my voice was dangerously quiet, "apologize to my son. Apologize." Serena laughed like a hyena. "Your brat assaults my son, and I should apologize? First, your son pushed my daughter. Second, your language just now was highly offensive. I stared at her. Apologize now. Serena's face contorted. She looked me up and down, noting my unbranded, custom-tailored designer suit. You are the mother. No wonder I hadn't seen you around here. Nouveau rich trash. That is none of your business. I turned to the teacher. I want to see the security recordings. We need authorization from the director for that, stammered Miss Davis. Then, get the director. At that moment, the office door opened again. Damien Montgomery strode in. He must have come running from Montgomery Tower. He was wearing his suit jacket. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing his forearms. Seeing the chaos, he frowned. What is going on here? Serena lit up like a Christmas tree and threw her arms around his neck. Damien, thank God you're here. Look what happened to our Max. This child hit him, and now the mother demands that I apologize. Damien's gaze passed from the crying boy to Leo, and in that second, time stopped. The room went absolutely silent, save for the hum of the central air conditioning. Damien stared at Leo, absolutely paralyzed. The dark eyebrows, the straight nose, the way Leo's lips were pressed into a stoic, tense line. The resemblance was so violently obvious that anyone with eyes would know they shared blood. Leo stared back. The eyes of a 4-year-old harbor no fear or calculation, just calm, penetrating curiosity. This child. Damien's voice was a dry croak. Whose is he? Serena, oblivious to the nuclear bomb about to explode next to her, snorted. Some new family. Who? Knows how they raised him? I am his mother. I stepped directly in front of Leo, shielding him from Damien's view. Mr. Montgomery, we meet again. Only then did Damien's eyes land on me. A hurricane of emotions crossed his face. Shock, a sudden, agonizing realization, fury, and pure devastation. How? His Adam's apple moved. How old is he? 4. I replied sharply. Born December 17th. 5 months of pregnancy plus premature delivery at 7 months. The math was impeccable. The blood drained from Damien's face. He pulled away from Serena and took a step toward me. He knelt down, getting eye level with Leo. What's your name? He asked. His voice trembled. Leo looked at me. I gave him a microscopic nod. Leo, replied my son. Leo. Damien exhaled the name like a prayer. Are you alone? You and your mom? Do you have siblings? Leo pointed a little finger at Mia, who had been hiding silently behind Miss Davis. That's my sister, Mia. Damien's eyes shot to the girl in the pink dress with pigtails. Mia shrank back, but her large, clear eyes, exact copies of mine, made Damien physically recoil. He grabbed the edge of the director's desk to keep from collapsing. Serena finally realized something was terribly wrong. Damien, what's wrong? Do you know them? Damien ignored her completely. He stood up and looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot. You had them all this time. What did you expect? I replied. That I would stay waiting for Eleanor to throw them into an orphanage? My mother, Mr. Montgomery, I interrupted him sharply. Right now we are resolving an incident between the children. Your son stole my daughter's toy and assaulted her. My son defended his sister and pushed him. How would you like to handle this? Damien took a deep, ragged breath and turned to the sobbing child in Serena's arms. Max, tell me the truth. You started it. The boy, terrified by Damien's sudden lethal tone, buried his face in Serena's skirt. Damien, gasped Serena. Max is only 4. Even if he started it, they're just playing. This child left a bruise on him. I asked you a question. Damien glared at Max. Did you push the girl? Max burst into new tears. I just wanted to play with her doll. Apologize, ordered Damien. Damien, apologize, repeated Damien. His voice admitted no argument. To the girl you pushed, and to the boy you insulted. Sobbing, Max turned to Leo and Mia. I'm sorry. It's okay, chirped Mia softly. Leo remained silent, looking at me. Leo, I said quietly. He apologized. What do we say? Leo looked at Max. I shouldn't have pushed you, but don't touch my sister ever. Again. Max nodded quickly. I turned to Miss Davis. Since this is resolved, I'm taking my children home for today. Of course, Miss Walker. I took Leo and Mia by the hand and headed for the door. As I passed Damien, he stepped into my path. Sophia, he said. His voice shattered. We have to talk. I'm very busy, Mr. Montgomery. I didn't look at him, and we have nothing to talk about. They are my children. His voice cracked, the volume rising. I have a right. You have absolutely no rights. I jerked my head up, my eyes fixed on his. Biologically, you provided half the DNA. Practically, you haven't been a father for a single second of their lives. Damien Montgomery, if you have an ounce of conscience left, don't play the loving patriarch here. I went around him and walked out the door. The hallway was deathly silent. From inside the office, I heard Serena's hysterical scream. What does that mean? Those brats are yours, Damien. Answer me. I didn't look back. I practically threw the children into their car seats in my Escalade. Only when I grabbed the steering wheel did I realize my hands were shaking violently. Mommy, said Leo from the back seat, that man is my dad. My hands froze on the ignition. I looked in the rearview mirror. Leo's face was completely calm. Mia was looking at me with huge, worried eyes. My worst fear. I turned around to face them. Yes, he is. But very bad things happened between Mommy and him long time ago. So we won't live with him. He won't be in our family. All I need to know is that Mommy loves you and Aunt Valerie loves you. That's all that matters. Okay? Leo nodded. Okay, Mia asked, her little voice trembling. Does he love us? My chest felt like it was collapsing. Mommy doesn't know, I said honestly. But Mommy will love you enough for 2 people. We don't need his love. Mia fell asleep quickly on the way home. Leo looked out the window the whole time. When we pulled into the parking garage, he spoke suddenly. Mommy, I don't like him. Why, sweetie? Because he made you sad. Leo's voice was quiet but resolute. I saw it. When you looked at him, your eyes looked sad. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. 4 years old and already so hyper-aware. Leo, I whispered. Mommy was sad once a long time ago, but now Mommy has you guys and Aura. I'm not sad anymore. Good. He let out a long sigh. If Mommy isn't sad, Then Mia and I are happy. After putting the children down for a nap, I went out onto the balcony and called Valerie. Val, Damien saw the children at preschool. Dead silence on the line. And he knows. I closed my eyes, listening to the New York City traffic. Serena was there too. It was a bloodbath. What are you going to do? We accelerate. I opened my eyes, looking at the spire of Montgomery Tower miles away. Is everything ready? Done, said Valerie. Now all business. The unedited video from the clinic is uploaded. I've mapped the entire supply chain, proving lead contamination in Montgomery, baby products, and I found Serena's former assistant. She is willing to testify. She has audios proving Serena seduced Damien on purpose and paid Arthur, the chauffeur, to take photos of you talking to Andrew 5 years ago to frame you for infidelity. Perfect, I said. Wait for my signal. I hung up. Instantly, my phone rang. Again. An unknown number. Sophia. Damien's husky voice was heard. We need to meet. I'm busy. 10 minutes, he pleaded. I'm downstairs. I walked to the edge of the balcony and looked down. A black Bentley was parked at the curb. Damien was leaning against the door with the phone to his ear, looking up at my penthouse. The streetlights cast long, lonely shadows around him, but my heart was stone. Wait there. I hung up, put place on a trench coat, and went down in the elevator. When I walked out the lobby, doors, the cool night wind whipped my hair. Damien straightened up. Are they asleep? He asked. Yes, they are beautiful, he whispered. They look like you and me. I said nothing. He stared at me, a storm raging behind his palm, eyes. These 5 years must have been hell raising them alone. I survived, I said. It was easier than living with the Montgomerys. He shuddered. He took a step toward me. Sophia, about the past. I owe you an explanation. I don't need it. I took a step back, maintaining the physical boundary. If you're here to dredge up the past, we're done. Besides finalizing our divorce, we have nothing to say. The children, his voice sharpened. Those are my children. I have a right. What? Right? I interrupted him again. 5 years ago, while you humiliated me in front of the world, did you think about your right to be a father? When your mother tried to force me to go to an abortion clinic, did you say a single word to defend me? Damien Montgomery, who the hell do you think you are to demand rights now? Under the dim light. His face was white as paper. I didn't know. His voice trembled. I didn't know you were pregnant. My mother never told me. The wedding. They forced me. My mother threatened to jump off the roof of Montgomery Tower if I didn't marry Serena to secure the board vote. And so I laughed, though hot tears stung my eyes. I had to be collateral damage. I had to carry your children and watch you marry another woman on national television. Damien, stop blaming your mother. You were a grown man. You made a choice. You chose the path of least resistance. You chose power. He shook his head, opening his mouth, but no words came out. I wiped a rebellious tear from my cheek and took a deep breath. The contested divorce is filed. You won't get custody. A judge will see 5 in years of abandonment and your mother's documented abuse and laugh at you in family court. If you have any brain left, sign the papers. And we can separate, quietly, quietly. The words seemed to gut him. Sophia, How can we separate? Quietly? Then we'll do it loudly, I said with ice in my veins. But the outcome won't change. I'm not the Sophia you could manipulate years ago. If you want a war, I'll give you one. I turned to go back inside. Wait, he yelled. His voice cracked. Just let me see them. I am their father. I stopped without looking back. Once the ink is dry on the divorce, and only if they want to see you. As I walked through the lobby, I heard the nauseating sound of a fist hitting the hood of the Bentley. Once, twice, but I didn't look back. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mrs. Peterson from the academy called. Miss Walker, I am so sorry to bother you. A man claiming to be the children's father is here with a lawyer. He demands to take DNA samples from Leo and Mia. We refused, of course, but he is threatening a court order. I'm on my way. When I arrived, Damien was sitting on a sofa in the principal's office. A man in an impeccable suit, clearly a high-powered litigator, was next to him. Miss Walker. Thank God, exhaled Mrs. Peterson. Damien looked up. He looked haggard, a shadow of a beard on his jaw. He stood up. Sophia, we have to resolve this. There is nothing to resolve. I set my Birkin bag on the Birkin bag desk. Mrs. Peterson, I apologize for the interruption. It won't happen again. Sophia, Damien raised his voice. Are they mine or not? I need a direct answer. An answer. I turned to him. You know perfectly well whose they are. If you didn't know, you wouldn't be running here with a lawyer to take samples from them. I want a paper to force your entry into their lives. It is my legal right. He shouted. The room went deathly silent. The lawyer and the director averted their gaze uncomfortably. I stared at him, and suddenly it seemed hilarious. 5 years ago they meant nothing to him. He didn't even know I was expecting his heirs. Now he was, foaming at the mouth, fighting for custody. Fine, I nodded. You want a test? You'll have a test. He blinked, clearly not expecting me to give in. But I have conditions, I continued. 1. The sampling will be done in my presence at a laboratory of my choice. 2. When the results confirm that they are yours. I paused. You and your mother will never approach them again. Impossible, retorted Damien. If they are my blood, I will never abandon them. Then I'll see you in court. I grabbed my bag. Mrs. Peterson, make sure security knows not to allow unauthorized personnel near my children. Sophia. Damien blocked the door. His tone dropped to a desperate plea. What do you want from me? It's my blood. How can I pretend they don't exist? The same way you pretended I didn't exist 5 years ago. I stared at him until he physically flinched. I pushed him and walked out into the brightly sunlit hallway. My phone vibrated. Valerie. Sophia. Guess who just barged into my PR agency? Her voice was a low, furious hiss. Eleanor. Montgomery. She demands to see you. Tell her I don't have time. She refuses to leave. Says she'll wait all day. Valerie lowered her voice to a whisper. And she brought a checkbook. I saw the zeros. $10 million. $10 million. 5 years ago, when she tried to buy my abortion and my silence, she offered $2 million. Inflation, I guess. I'm on my way, I said. Give me 20 minutes. When I walked into the Paxson, glass-walled conference room of Valerie's firm, Eleanor Montgomery was sitting at the head of the table. She wore an impeccable violet Chanel suit, sipping an espresso with the aristocratic poise of someone posing for Vogue. 5 years had aged her, but her arrogance was perfectly preserved. Sophia, she put down the cup. Sit down. She spoke to me as if I were the maid. I pulled out a chair next to Valerie. Mrs. Montgomery, what can I do for you? I heard you crawled back into the Gadival.com. City bringing 2 brats with you. Eleanor slid a cashier's check across the polished mahogany. $10 million. Take the money, take the children, and leave the country permanently. I looked at the check. Paid to the order of Sophia Walker. $10 million. I laughed out loud. Mrs. Montgomery, 5 years later and you still think you can? Buy your way out of hell. It's the most efficient method. Her face was a stone mask of Botox. Sophia, you were smart to sign the divorce. Papers 5 years ago. Be smart now. Damien and Serena's wedding was delayed, but it's still going ahead. Your presence here complicates things. Complicates things. I picked up the check, holding it to the light. Are you afraid I'll ruin your meticulously arranged corporate merger marriage? Or are you afraid the Montgomery family dirty laundry is about to be aired in public? Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Watch your tone. Oh, I do. I dropped the check. But 5 years ago you lied to me. You told me Damien was on a business trip in London while you organized his wedding in the Pyman Wedding, Hamptons. You locked me in a room with a corrupt doctor and tried to force me to take abortion pills. I need to list your crimes chronologically. Valerie gasped. She did that? Shut your mouth. Eleanor snapped at Valerie. Then she glared at me. There is no point dredging up the past. You have 2 options. Take the 10 million and disappear, or I will make sure you cannot exist in this country. A brazen, naked threat. I looked at her and remembered sitting in her drawing room in Connecticut 5 years ago. She had looked at me with those same dead eyes and said, Sophia, Damien needs a wife who is a pillar for the Montgomery Empire, not a middle-class nobody. Leave, quietly, and keep your dignity. I had cried, I had begged, I had signed, but not today. I stood up, picked up the $10 million check, and slowly, deliberately, tore it in half, then into quarters, then into eighths. 10 million doesn't buy my children's lineage and doesn't pay your son's debt to me. I let the check, confetti fall onto the mahogany table. Eleanor's composure finally shattered. Don't test my patience, Sophia. I leaned forward, planting both hands on the table, putting my face inches from hers. Listen to me very carefully, Eleanor. I will divorce your son, but he won't get a single hair on my children's heads. As for you, I remember everything you did to me, and we're going to settle accounts. I straightened up. Val, escort our guest to the exit. Eleanor rose slowly, her eyes poisonous. You'll regret this, Sophia. My only regret is ever crossing your threshold. I smiled coldly. But now I'm going to enjoy watching you and your son pay for your choices. The next day, I was served. Damien filed an emergency petition in family court to establish paternity and force a DNA test. Valerie smashed a coffee mug against the wall of her office. The audacity of this man. Sophia, we can't let him do this. Once he establishes himself as the father, he will request shared custody. We are going to accept the test, I said, looking at the subpoena. In fact, we're going to make a spectacle of it. What? I opened my laptop and turned it around. This is everything I've gathered over the years. Proof that Eleanor embezzled from Montgomery Group. It won't put her in federal prison, but it's enough to tank their stock price by 30% in one day. Are you going to use this to blackmail him into withdrawing the lawsuit? No, I smiled. I'm going to use this to show them that Sophia Walker didn't come back to negotiate. I came back to execute. 3 days later, Damien and I met at a court-designated diagnostic lab downtown. He looked like a ghost, bloodshot eyes, jaw clenched. Mia hid behind. My legs. Leo looked at him stoically. The cheek swabs took 2 minutes. Damien gave a blood sample. Result called out to me. Sophia. His voice was raspy. If they are mine, we can start. Over. I stopped, but didn't turn around. Damien, there are no second chances in this life. There is only too late. He hurried to stand in front of me. I have regretted every day for 5 years. I spent millions looking for you. I waited for you. You waited for me? I laughed bitterly. You waited for me so your mother could try to buy my children with $10 million? I will not let her near you ever again. He grabbed my wrist. Sophia, give me a chance to fix it for you and the children. Fix it. I looked deeply into his desperate eyes. How are you going to do that, Damien? Are you going to give me back 5 years of my youth? Are you going to hold my hand retroactively while I bled out on a delivery table? He froze. You had a difficult delivery? 7 months premature, hemorrhage. 3 days in the ICU. I enunciated every word. Where were you? Posing on a red carpet with Serena Rivers? Or looking for a new corporate merger to marry? His face turned ashen. His grip on my wrist loosened. I didn't know. Of course not. I picked up Mia and grabbed Leo's hand. Because you never cared about me. Stop playing the tragic hero, Damien. You're just panicking because you realize there are 2 people with your lineage walking this earth that you cannot control. I walked to the car. He didn't follow me this time. 5 days later, the results arrived. Damien, his lawyers, my lawyers, and I were at the lab. His lawyer opened the envelope, went to the last page, and paled. Damien snatched it out of his hands. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Damien dropped the paper. It fluttered to the floor. I crouched down, picked it up, and looked at it. His lips trembled. Now you know. I handed the paper to his lawyer. They are your biological children, and that is the only thing you will ever be to them. A biological footnote. Sophia, he choked out a sob as I turned away. They are mine. Mine. So, what? I looked over my shoulder. By law, you have the right to request visitation. Do you really think any judge will give custody to a man who abandoned his pregnant wife to marry an actress? Do you think those children want a father who threw away their mother like garbage? He slumped against the cated wall, clutching his chest. I was wrong, he whispered. God, I was so wrong. Mistakes have consequences. I walked out into the sexless, blinding sun of New York City, took out my phone, and texted Valerie. Execute. Friday, 2 p.m. The Grand Ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. The U.S. launch of Aura, Maternal Wellness. Invitations had been sent a week ago to major media outlets, venture capitalists, health executives, and even competitors. The room was packed. Backstage, a makeup artist touched up my powder. Valerie paced back and forth with her iPad. 5-minute speech. Then, the brand video, then signing the joint venture with Andrew Davis, then Q&A. She paused, lowering her voice. Damian Montgomery is here, row 3, right? I adjusted my diamond earrings in. The mirror. Is he alone? Alone. Just him and his general counsel. Sophia is. It's going to cause a scene. It's better if he does. I smiled at the CEO, in the Brocken Inne CEO, white suit staring back at me. At 2 p.m. sharp, I stepped onto the stage. The spotlights blinded me. Camera flashes went off like strobes. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of Luck, the press, good afternoon. I am Sophia Walker, founder and CEO of Aura. My speech was concise, focusing on our technology-driven postpartum recovery model. The crowd applauded enthusiastically, especially when Andrew Davis joined me on stage to officially sign the $2 billion joint venture agreement. The lights dimmed for the brand video. When it finished, the lights came back up. I returned to the podium. Thank you. But today, besides launching Aura, I have a personal statement to make. The room went deathly silent. I looked at the third row. Damian was sitting rigidly, staring intently at me. 5 years ago, I fled this city. My voice echoed through the sound system. I was 5 months pregnant. I went to a routine ultrasound alone. And while I waited, I watched a live broadcast on the clinic television. I watched my husband Damian Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Group, marry Hollywood actress Serena Rivers. A shockwave rippled through the Plaston room. 100 camera lenses turned physically to aim at Damian, hands gripping the armrests of his chair. At that time, Mr. Montgomery and I were legally married. I continued, my voice steady, analytical. His mother, Eleanor Montgomery, had relentlessly pressured me to sign divorce papers and even tried to force me to terminate my pregnancy. I spent the last 5 years in exile, raising premature twins and building Aura from scratch. I clicked a remote control. The giant LED screen behind me showed the CCTV footage from the clinic. A pregnant, pale Sophia clutching her stomach, watching the giant TV showing Damian and Serena kissing. It was 30 seconds of pure proof and devastation. The press went wild. Reporters stood up shouting questions. Damian's lawyer tried to get him up, but Damian pushed him away with his eyes fixed on me, horrified. I clicked the gears, remote again. The screen changed to internal Montgomery Group documents. Montgomery baby lotion batch, 409. Red circles highlighted lead toxicity levels 30 times above the FDA limit. Internal emails explicitly detailed the bribery of safety inspectors. In the Great Persid Inspectors' last 5 years, Montgomery Group has aggressively entered the maternal and discreet childcare space, I said, my voice cutting through the chaos like a whip. But in their pursuit of profit, they have consistently falsified safety data. These are the actual lab results. This product has been on shelves for a year. This is defamation, shouted Damian's lawyer over the din. We will sue for defamation. Please do. I looked directly at him. I have already submitted the uncensored files to the FDA and the Department of Justice. I clicked the remote one last time. A receipt for a bank transfer appeared. This is the record of a cashier's check for $10 million. It was offered to me 5 days ago by Eleanor Montgomery, demanding that I take my children and disappear so as not to ruin her son's public image. I tore up the check, but the bank record remains. The room erupted. Damian was frozen, looking from the screen to me, It was clear he had no idea his mother had done that. I'm not here today for pity. I swept my gaze over the flashing cameras. I'm here to prove that a betrayed and discarded woman does not have to stay broken. That a mother fighting for her children's lives is an unstoppable force. And finally, I looked directly at Damien, that those who commit atrocities will finally pay the price. I bowed deeply. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Before the room erupted in a standing ovation, Valerie ran to the stage, flanked by security, and rushed me out. Microphones were thrust in our faces. Miss Walker, will you sue for full custody? Montgomery Group facing federal.com. Indictment? We ran out through the service exit. Upon reaching the alley, a black Bentley blocked the way. Damien was there without a tie, his shirt collar torn, eyes wild. He marched toward us. Valerie stepped in, but I gently pushed her aside. Sophia. His voice was shattered. Hate me, destroy me. But why the company? That's my father's legacy. I didn't destroy your company. I looked at him coldly. Your mother did, and you did. If you had had the guts to tell me the truth 5 years ago, if you had acted like a husband or a man, none of this would be happening. He shook his head. Tears, real tears, spilled from his lashes, the ruthless billionaire sobbing in an alley. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know what my mother did. I didn't know about the lead in the products. Sophia, please, let me fix this. It's too late. I walked to Valerie's SUV. The second you said, I do at that altar, it was too late. Sophia, he shouted as I reached the door. The children. Just let me see the children. I paused with my hand on the handle. When the dust settles, if they want to see you, I got in. As we drove away, I saw him in the side mirror, standing in the side alley, destroyed. Sophia, are you okay? Whispered Valerie. I'm fine. I leaned my head against the cold glass. Val, do you know how I lived these 5 years? When I hemorrhaged, the surgeon asked me, who to save, me or the babies? I said, the babies. When Leo had a 104 fever at 3 months, I ran out in the pouring rain, begging a taxi to stop. I slept on the floor of the neonatal intensive care unit. I didn't survive all, that just so Damien Montgomery could have a redemption arc. I came back to show that Sophia Walker doesn't need his pity. My phone rang. Andrew Davis. Sophia, that was the most ruthless corporate execution I have ever seen in my life, he said with awe in his voice. The Montgomerys will fight back. I know. I need a favor. Montgomery stock will plummet tomorrow. I want you to buy every share that retail investors sell in a panic. Spend whatever is necessary. A pause. Why? You won't get enough for a board seat. Not yet, I said. But 5 years of my youth and my tears are buried in that company. I'm just collecting interest. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Sophia, turn on the Fruments. TV, yelled Valerie from the kitchen. I came out in a robe. CNBC and Bloomberg. TV had full coverage. Has shown trending. Serena Rivers audio leak. #2 trending. Montgomery baby toxic scandal. #3 trending. Montgomery Group shares plunge 20%. An anonymous Twitter account had posted the audio of Serena and Eleanor conspiring to frame me with Andrew 5 years ago. The internet was ruthless. Every brand sponsoring Serena was dropping her. Montgomery Group issued a weak PR denial. But no one believed it. Protesters were already gathering in front of Montgomery Tower. "Eleanor is in the hospital," said Valerie, giving me a coffee. "Massive heart attack last night. Damien is with her." I took a sip. "Watch the children. I have an errand to run." Mount Sinai Hospital. VIP floor. Montgomery security tried to block me, but my own private security team, hired by Valerie, pushed them aside. I opened the door to the corner suite. Eleanor Montgomery lay in a hospital bed, with an IV in her arm. She looked withered, but her eyes were still poisonous. Damien was sitting in a chair with his head in his hands. He looked up, stunned. "Sophia, why are you here?" "Just paying my respects." I entered, placing a ridiculously expensive fruit basket on the table. "After all, you offered me $10 million. Eleanor gasped. "You have the nerve." "Why wouldn't I?" I pulled up a chair. "Mrs. Montgomery, did you hear the leaked audio? Are you thinking about how to explain the toxic baby lotion to the authorities? Oh, and by the way, I also submitted the $10 million you embezzled from corporate accounts over the last 5 years." Eleanor's heart monitor spiked. Damien jumped to his feet. "Embezzled? Sophia, what are you talking about?" Her CFO's son had some massive gambling debts in Macau, I said pleasantly. I bailed him out. In exchange, he gave me the Brossom, routing numbers overseas, that your mother used to siphon off $10 million from Montgomery Group. $6 million went to Serena's film studio. 4 went to her cousin's failed startup. The rest is in the Caymans. Mother. Damien looked at his mother in absolute horror. "Is it true?" Eleanor closed her eyes. 2 tears escaped. It was a confession. Damien backed away, hitting the wall. He looked like he was going to vomit. "Do you understand now, Damien?" I stood up. "Your precious family legacy, your duty. It was all a scam to control you. Your mother sold your soul to keep her grip on power. And you let her." "No," he whispered. I submitted the final divorce decree to the judge. I walked to the door. "On Monday morning, as for the children, if they want to see you, I will arrange it on the frummas, condition that your mother never breathes the same air as them again." As the door closed, I heard Damien finally break down, screaming at his mother. But it was no longer my problem. Outside, a light drizzle had begun. A sleek Maybach pulled up to the curb. Andrew Davis rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" I got in. He handed me a hot latte. "What's your endgame?" Andrew asked as we drove through Central Park. "Montgomery Group will bleed. But they are too big to fail. They will survive." "I know." I looked at the rain. I just wanted to burn out the rot. If Damien survives this, maybe he'll build something better. Andrew looked at me with slightly red ears. "Sophia, if you ever decide you want to start a new chapter professionally and personally, I hope to be at the top of the list." I smiled softly. "Right now, I just want to raise my children, Andrew. I'm not thinking about anything else. I can wait." Monday morning, New York, Supreme Court. Family division. The room was full of press. Eleanor didn't show up. Damien was sitting at the respondent's table looking completely empty. My lawyer laid out the case. 5 years of separation, bigamy, or at least public intent of it, emotional abuse, abandonment. We asked for full legal and physical custody, child support, and restraining order regarding Eleanor Montgomery. Damien's expensive lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client admits fault in the breakdown of the marriage. However, he vigorously opposes the termination of his presence, parental visitation rights. These are his biological children. Your Honor. I stood up. The judge nodded. I looked at Damien. Damien, I have a question. 5 years ago, the day I went to my 5-month ultrasound, where were you? The room went deathly silent. Damien swallowed hard. I was in a chapel in the Treaple in the Slash. Hampton's marrying Serena Rivers. While you were legally married to me, yes. Do you think a man who abandons his pregnant wife to marry an actress on national television deserves the title of father? Damien's lawyer objected. But Damien waved him aside. He stood up. He looked at me. His eyes overflowed with a sadness so deep it was almost tangible. I don't deserve it, he whispered into the microphone. I have no right. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I withdraw all objections. I grant Sophia full and exclusive legal and physical custody. I waive my right to mandatory visitation. I will pay whatever child support the court deems appropriate. His lawyer panicked. Damien, you can't be serious. I am. Damien looked at me. It's the only thing I have left to give her. Peace. The gavel sounded. Divorce granted. Outside the courthouse, the sun shone brightly. Valerie hugged me tightly. We won, Sophia. We really won. Damien walked out the heavy bronze doors. He stopped on the steps holding a manila envelope. He approached me. Valerie stepped in, but I passed her. This is the signed divorce decree. He handed me the envelope, and I transferred 5% of my personal voting shares in Montgomery, grouped to a trust for Leo and Mia. You are the trustee. I stared at him. Take it, he pleaded. It's what I owe them. And Sophia, I am so sorry. Thank you for raising them so wonderfully. He turned and walked down the steps. Damien, I called him. He stopped. If you want to see them, I said, quietly. We can go to the Central Park Zoo this weekend if they want to. His shoulders trembled. He nodded once, didn't turn, and got into his car. That weekend I took Leo and Mia to the Central Park Zoo. Damien was waiting by the sea lion enclosure. He wore a simple sweater and jeans, holding 2 giant FAO Schwartz teddy bears. He looked as nervous as a teenager on a first date. Hi. He knelt down. I'm Damien, your dad. Mia took the bear and smiled. Thank you, Daddy. Leo took the bear, but said nothing. For an hour, he bought them ice cream, watched them on the carousel, and answered Mia's endless questions. When it was time to leave, Mia hugged him. Can we play again, Daddy? Damien burst into tears, returning the hug. Yes, whenever you want. Leo stepped forward and offered his little hand. Damien shook it. Goodbye, said Leo. On the way back to our penthouse, Mia asked, Mommy, Daddy, is he good? I looked at the New York City skyline. People aren't just good or bad, Mia. He made many mistakes, but he is trying to be better. You decide how you to feel about him, Leo nodded. I understand. 3 months passed. Aura expanded to Los Angeles and Chicago. Montgomery Group stabilized under a newly appointed interim CEO. Eleanor remained in a luxury rehabilitation center in Switzerland, permanently exiled from the board. Serena Rivers disappeared into obscurity. One random Tuesday, Damien called me. Sophia, I'm at the Montgomery Tower heliport. Can you come up? I have something to give you. I drove to Midtown and took the private elevator to the roof. Damien was standing by the glass parapet, looking at the city he used to rule. What is it? I asked, stopping a few feet away. He turned and handed me a thick, leather portfolio. This is another 8% of Montgomery Group. Combined with the children's 5%, you now control 13%. You are the third largest shareholder. You have a seat on the 48,000 board. I frowned, refusing to take it. Why are you doing this? Because I'm leaving. He smiled, and for the first time in 5 years, he looked at peace. I have resigned completely. My mother is in Europe. There is nothing left for me. Here. Where are you going? London first, then who knows? I'm going to start over. He put the portfolio in my hands. Take it, Sophia. Ensure that you and the children will never again be at anyone's mercy. Even if Aura fails, you own a prosyndesigis piece of this skyline. I held the heavy leather folder. Do the children know? No. I'll FaceTime them once I'm settled. He looked at me, the wind ruffling his hair. Sophia, can I ask you one last question? Go ahead. If my mother hadn't interfered, if I hadn't been a coward, did we ever have a real chance? I looked at this man I had loved, hated, destroyed, and finally forgiven. There are no ifs in life, Damien, I said softly. It's time for both of us to move on. He closed his eyes, nodded, and offered his hand. Goodbye, Sophia. Thank you for loving me once. I shook his hand. It was warm. Take care, Damien. I turned and walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw him turn to look at the city. When I got back to the penthouse, the twins were building a huge fort in the Blang living room. Mia ran to me, throwing her arms around my waist. Mommy, why are your eyes watery? I knelt down, pulling both of them to me, burying my face in their hair. Because Mommy is very happy. Why? Asked Leo, patting my back. Julum sili. Because I have you two. I kissed their cheeks. With you, Mommy is the luckiest person in the whole world. Leo looked at me with absolute certainty. Us, too. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sun was setting over the Hudson, painting the New York City sky with brilliant brushstrokes of gold and fire. The war was over. The slate was clean, and a beautiful life to be written awaited. Yeah,